So if you're following my channel, then you know that I usually don't do videos about politics. I leave that stuff off my channel. Every now and then I did videos in the past where I express my political opinions, but I do keep it separate because I think it doesn't lead anywhere. It's just dividing the community on my channel. However, since we are currently witnessing history in the making, okay, with the attempted Trump assassination not many hours ago when it happened, I feel like I should chime in because currently, as I'm recording this, the term staged is trending on Twitter with 410,000 posts, okay, and that is a lot of posts. And there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment, a lot of misinformation, lots of questions, and I just wanted to do a video where I break this down for you guys, give you a little bit of background, not necessarily my own opinion, but just some thoughts that people have, some stuff that people noticed in the video, in the recordings. There's a lot of stuff out there, so I wanted to put all of this in a video. But before we get into it, let me say, when I first saw the footage of the attempted assassination of Trump, it also didn't sit right with me. The way it looked, my first thought was, it's fake. I thought it was staged. I did an interview with Twitter personality Nissan a while back. And in that interview, he said something that really made me think when I saw this footage. And that was that he said, Trump will stage some kind of event, right? Or not Trump personally, but him and his team will stage some kind of event that will then allow him to point at that event at all times and be like, you see, that's why we're doing it. This justifies all my radical policies and all that. This is why it's allowed and it's righteous what I'm doing. And when I saw the footage of the attempted assassination, that was my first thought. I was like, Liam Neeson was right, dude. This is the moment. This is the burning Reichstag. Do you know what I mean? This is the event that he can point at and say, look, you know, we have all these radical policies, but we got to stop these radical people who even tried to shoot me. And I know that at this point, we know that the shooter was a registered Republican. We all know that. We don't need to get into this. I just personally think this is not something that Trump will care about a lot, okay? He will twist and turn this and repeat the lie that somehow it's linked to Biden's rhetoric and that he was some kind of radical leftist. You know, I'm convinced that we will see this, but we don't need to get into this here. I just want to point out that we do know that the shooter was a registered Republican. And part of my skepticism at that point was also that he got only hit in his ear. Like, that is such a strange thing to happen. We knew nothing about the shooter early on. The pictures that were taken, right, the photography that was released afterwards, like this very iconic picture at this point, it's just too good to be true. Not only does he raise the fist, and then he also did the fight kind of thing afterwards, which felt odd, right? He got up rather quickly from what I saw early on and had this very, very powerful media moment, right? Also, this shot, it's just like a perfect triangle composition, the flag sitting above it. You know what I mean? There's so much perfect with this moment that I was like, something is off here, right? This didn't feel right to me. However, I have to say that now I've changed my mind on it. We now know who the shooter was. We now know that bystanders were harmed and one actually passed away. So personally at this point, I don't think this was a staged event in the sense that Donald Trump and his team or some secret service or whatever, some secret shady agency staged this moment. I don't buy that anymore. It was, in my opinion at least, a real assassination attempt, but there's still loads of questions. Some of them have been answered, and I feel a lot of people are still missing these answers. So it would make sense to go through them. Like, for example, what I mentioned earlier, how come if there's an active shooter, the Secret Service jump on him, but then fairly quickly he gets up, raises his fist, and has this iconic, perfectly captured moment right afterwards? The answer to that is, watch the footage again. You will see that the Secret Service actually keeps him down fairly long, and I have to assume that they kept him down long enough until they heard in their earpieces that the threat had been eliminated. And then he got up, and then he raised his fist. It was still a surreal, picture-perfect media power moment. But then again, Donald Trump is a media professional. That's what he is. He's worked in television, and if there's one thing that you can definitely say he's good at, it is that he has a gut feeling of how he has to behave and what he has to say to trigger the right people, to get the word out there, to rally up people, okay? He's very good at that. He's a person that perfectly plays the media cards. And that's what he did in this moment. And again, I looked at it, it all looked fake and staged to me, but at this point, I think it was just the perfect storm, so to say. Several little small things came together and formed this moment that he will most certainly now utilize for himself in his own communication. But there are more questions. Like for example, I've seen several interviews with people who were at the rally with Trump supporters who said, we saw the attacker early on, we warned the police, we pointed it out to them, and either they couldn't respond quick enough or nothing was done, right? So that's really strange. I mean, if someone would say, we see a guy with a rifle on the roof over there, surely that would get priority over everything else, at least when it comes to the Secret Service. I want you to look at this footage, okay? It's 50 seconds long, and it is just a bunch of people standing there looking at the shooter as he's on the roof, pointing it out to the police, just making everyone aware that, hey, there's a guy on the roof, okay? And again, I've seen interviews with people at this rally saying, yeah, I've seen that he had a rifle. We've seen that he had a rifle. We informed the police. But let's take a look at this footage.
Look, they're all pointing. Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
What's happening?
Oh my God, like to see there's children there, you know what I mean? Oh my God, this is just wild to me.
Yeah, look, there he is.
And you can clearly see him there, crawling into position. Do you see what I mean? It's like, guy on the roof, some people have seen him carrying a rifle. So it's like, if people who are untrained witness this and point it out, why did the Secret Service not witness this? Why are they not securing the roofs around? That's another question where I'm like, this is another coincidence. And while this does lend some credibility to the conspiracy theories of people saying this is a staged event or was a staged event, my personal opinion on it, my interpretation is that the Secret Service and the police that were there at the rally just messed it up. They didn't respond quickly enough. The information that that guy was on the roof was not spread fast enough and didn't reach the right people in time. Look, we're all just humans. People mess up. It was a pretty big mistake to mess up in that particular case, but that's my theory at least. I think the Secret Service just failed. Now let's look at the story around his ear. Okay, the man was bleeding on his ear, we've all seen it. From what I've read, the shooter used an AR-15 style weapon, which is using 5.56 ammo rounds. Here's a picture of a 5.56 bullet, okay, and now obviously keep in mind, this includes the bullet casing, okay? This is not the projectile that actually flies through the air. The projectile is way smaller. I don't know how low it goes in here, but it has more a shape like this, and everything that's back in here remains in the gun and then or remains in the rifle and is ejected once you reload. Here's another good reference image that I just found. So you can kind of see the bullet. It's much smaller because a lot of people were saying, like, if a bullet would be penetrating his ear, surely just the sheer power of the bullet hitting his ear would leave a bigger damage. But actually looking at it, I don't know, like on the outer side of the ear, you don't see any damage. Also notice there's no splashing of the blood, right? There's no blood splatter. There's no blood on the hair above the ear. There's not even blood on the collar and right under the ear, right? You would think like if a projectile with that much power penetrates his ear, it would just splash. There would be some kind of splash that on one hand does more damage to the actual ear because that is soft tissue, do you know what I mean? And it would leave some blood splatter around the ear, which is clearly not the case, so that's suspicious. Here's an image of a target with a coin next to it that actually shows the size of holes made by a 5.56 round. So these holes are not huge, okay? It is not that they rip a massive hole into whatever they penetrate, but still, looking at this particular image, it just didn't sit right with me. Now, there is a theory that has been evolving where people say what actually hit his ear was not the bullet at all, despite the famous picture that we've seen, where you can actually see the bullet fly through the air. But obviously, we don't know how close that actually is to his head. This might be 2-3 meters behind him for all we know. So I don't count this particularly as evidence that the bullet specifically hit his ear. But the theory is that the bullet broke a teleprompter screen. You can see them, these semi-transparent teleprompter screens made from perspex that are all around these people where they read off their speeches from. And a piece of glass flew through the air, and that's what cut his ear. So what we actually see in these images is not the ear being damaged from the bullet, it is the ear being damaged from a piece of glass that just cut his ear, which again is wild to me. What are the odds that the man doesn't get hit by the bullet, right? The shooter misses him, but he hits a teleprompter that then shatters, and a piece of glass hits his ear, which now allows him to claim, well, they tried to shoot me, look how closely they missed me. Like, what are the odds of this? This is insanity, do you know what I mean? But don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, that the teleprompter got shattered. Also, I am a bit skeptical of that as well, because would we have not heard that if a teleprompter like explodes and shatters? That would certainly make some noise. Maybe that would have been captured on some of the cameras, so we actually see a teleprompter being shattered. I haven't seen any of it. At this point, it's just a theory, but him being cut on his ear, to me, makes more sense than him having a bullet go through his ear or hitting him on his ear. Because there's also like this meme, I'm sure you've seen it, but the moment where he was looking off to the side, that's when the bullet hit. If you rewatch the video, you'll see it. Just when it happens, he's looking away. So there is the possibility that we literally had a moment like this. If it was the bullet that hit his ear, it would have gone through his head in this angle, but him looking to the side, he literally saved his own life, if that was the case, by just looking to the side slightly in that particular moment, in that microsecond, which again is like, what is the likeliness of this? What are the odds of this happening? This is wild. And obviously all the Trump supporters are like, well, it's God. God himself came down and hold his hand over Trump's. Like, what about the supporters, bro? You know what I mean? The supporter who was standing in the sideline, an innocent bystander. Where was God then, right? That guy died, and it's just tragic. And nobody talks about that as well. It just makes it even more tragic. So even I believe that it was an authentic assassination attempt and that it wasn't staged. This stuff is weird, man. I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is strange. All this stuff, it's just too many coincidences. And then there's another point I'd like to mention. And that is that in the past, there were already threats at Trump rallies and Trump events where people apparently allegedly had firearms, okay? And I want you to look at this short clip. It's just 40 seconds. This is how the Secret Service reacted just upon the base threat that there is someone in the close vicinity that has a firearm, okay? They immediately remove him. They're like, let's get him out of here. And then look at this clown show that went down at this event. Do you know what I mean? With him screaming this, having this very media moment of like screaming fight, fight, fight and stuff. Admittedly, like I said in the beginning, this was the moment where they already had him down for a considerable amount of time. They probably found out that the threat has been eliminated because that happened literally seconds after he fired his own shot. So he was taken down immediately, basically. But still, like, the reaction is just weird. And then there's also this moment of the attempted Reagan assassination that happened in 1981. I mean, check this out. Again, how the Secret Service reacts in that moment. Look at that reaction time, you know, look at how serious they take that situation. These guys are so on top of that. Like, panic breaks out immediately. They're securing the perimeter. It's just a completely different vibe from what we've seen at the Trump rally. Like, what happened there? It's just not comparable, to be honest. So, look, again, I can only say that overall, this thing still looks like a real assassination attempt to me. It feels like it was the perfect storm for Donald Trump. A lot of factors came together and created this perfect marketable moment for him now, which I'm sure, as I said, he's going to utilize until he's re-elected or not in November. And then I want to also point out this short video to you guys, okay, by this guy. And I don't need to play the whole thing, but here's what he did. He slowed down the footage when he put his hand to his ear, right? We've all seen this. You hear the shots going off. Something penetrates his ear, whether it's the piece of glass or actually the bullet. And then Trump lifts his hand to the ear. And this guy slowed it down, okay? And I want to show you guys what he discovered. And you can leave me your thoughts down in the comments, okay, on this, whether you think this has any legitimacy. But check it out. So he says in his hand, as he lifts up the hand, is like a yellow thing. Do you see this? Like, he puts this yellow thing to his ear, which presumably, I don't think he says this specifically, but presumably he thinks it's like some kind of blood bag, right, that he then squished on his ear, because then once he takes his hand down, right after that, you don't see it anymore. The yellow, whatever it was, is gone. However, as someone who debunks, lots of videos on the internet, I would like to point out that when he points it down, look, there is some yellowish taint here. He put his hand down slower than he put it up, right? The putting up of the hand almost was a natural panic moment where he's like, oh, what was that on my ear, right? So you move it up, you have more motion blur on the hand, and that means the colors that the camera picks up from his hand, which seem to include a little bit of yellow, right? If you look at it here, don't know what it is, right? It might just be the skin. It might just be like the sun on his skin. And, you know, he is rather orange quite often. We just have to face that. So the orangey taint with like the motion blur can potentially lead to an effect that it would look like something yellow in his hand. To be honest with you, I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that him lifting up his hand here is actually a real yellow object in his hand. It looks like it a little bit, and it's a fun conspiracy theory, but looking at him taking his hand down and seeing that there are light tones of yellow anyway in his hand, I think it is just an illusion of the camera that kind of led to an optical trick, basically, that the camera picked up of his hand having something yellow in it. I don't think he had anything yellow in it. But you can see speculation is going crazy. As I said, the term staged is currently trending still on Twitter. People are going nuts about it because, like I said, like I described in this video, there's just so much off about this event. It feels so wrong. Again, I'm not saying it was staged. I personally believe it was a real assassination attempt. But why was it such a perfect storm for Donald Trump? Why did so many one-in-a-million coincidences come together? You know, the Secret Service effing up, him only being hit in his ear, you know, like millimeters away from his head, that he got this incredible media moment with his fist raised in the hand afterwards. Anyway, I broke it down for you guys. These are my thoughts. I think it's a wild moment in our history, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, okay? Please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you think there's any doubt whether this was a real event, that this might have been staged, or do you think, no, it is what I'm suspecting as well? It's just what it is, and a bunch of coincidences came together in that moment and formed what it was. So I don't know, guys. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm curious to hear them. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, share it on social media. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. Oh yeah, you can also join our Discord. Okay, we have a Discord. Link is in the description. It's free. We can discuss it over there. Loads of people are discussing it as we speak on our Discord. So I hope to meet you over there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out. Bye.